I expect this run to be absolutely brutal. Today I'm going to beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Luvdisc. So I'm going to start by talking about all the things that are working against this cute little heart-shaped fish. First of all, it has less than inspiring base stats. It has 43 HP, 30 attack, 55 defense, 40 special attack. Yes, only 40 special attack, 65 special defense, and 97 speed. I guess Game Freak just really didn't want to give this thing 3 digits in any of its stats. Also, the summary of these stats is like, it's a fast fish that isn't very defensive, and it's even worse at attacking. Honestly, when I came back to the series in Generation 6 and I saw Alomomola, I was like, oh, that's nice, they added an evolution for Luvdisc, and then it's like, no. Of course they didn't. Luvdisc is still just terrible. Now you might think that maybe we'd get some relief with our move pool. After all, in Generation 3, the move pools are much better than they are in like Generation 1 and Generation 2. Well, that's not really the case for Luvdisc. Honestly, this looks like a Generation 1 move pool. It has basically some water moves. Actually, through level up it only has one, which is Water Gun. And it doesn't even start with it. Then through TMs and HMs, it gets access to some ice moves, and some water moves, and some normal moves, and outside of that, nothing really else. I did add the move tutor moves to the move pool. I normally don't do this in Generation 3 because there won't be enough space if I add them, but today like it felt really empty on that side of the screen, so I just added them anyways. Now luckily Luvdisc is a mono water type, so it is going to get the same type attack bonus with a move like Surf. However, it won't have access to that until after I've beat Norman, who is the 5th gym leader. Yes, I am going to have to face Flannery with only Water Gun. That just feels so wrong. Also, Watson is before her, but we're gonna cross that bridge when we get to it. Before that, we should actually talk about the positives of Luvdisc. Well, number 1, it's really cute. Look at this tiny little fish. Perfect for a Valentine's Day special. But it's only really perfect for that, and I guess leveling up quickly because it has the fast growth rate. I guess we could categorize its ability Swift Swim as an advantage because, yes, if the rain is active, it will move faster, but does Luvdisc really need to move faster? It needs like Swift Swim, but for its special attack instead. Alright, so with all that preamble out of the way, let's take on the rival for the first time. Oh great, I forgot to heal for this fight. By the way, I have added team displays for all the enemy trainers, so you can see that over on the right hand side of the screen. This is brand new in Generation 3, and I will be adding abilities to it for the next video, but it takes a while to develop these features, so I couldn't get it quite ready for this one. Now you'll notice here against Trico, I'm using Charm to lower its attack stat, and I was having so many tech problems when I was recording this run. So yeah, I had done the early game many times, and every time this Trico just got critical hits against Luvdisc and would always finish me off. So I decided in this fight, which was like, I don't know, my 3rd attempt or something like that I was just going to use Charm all the way until it has no attack and then knock it out. I actually get a critical hit on my first tackle, which is really nice. I do about a 3rd. Yes, I do a 3rd with a critical hit. Luvdisc does only have 8 attack at this point. Next turn, I take the Trico to yellow health. It hits with Pound, doing only 2 damage because of all my charms. And then on the next hit with Pound, it gets a critical hit and knocks Luvdisc out. So, yeah, I couldn't escape it, even by restarting multiple times. Instead of getting more frustrated and bashing my head against this wall, I'm just going to train up a little bit, and even fighting a wild Poochyena proves to be risky. It gets a critical hit, taking Luvdisc down to 4 health. I go for Tackle. It takes the Poochyena to red health. It goes for Tackle again, and Luvdisc survives on 2 health before I knock it out. I level up one more time to level 7, and then I head back to face the rival. This time I'm fully healed to give myself the best possible chance. I use Charm, lowering Trico's attack. After that, I start to use Tackle. It's going to take the Trico out in 5 hits. Luckily, my enemy doesn't get a critical hit. I finish him off, and with that, I've defeated the first trainer in the game. Yeah, it was actually a challenge. Anyways, on the next route, I go into one of the fights with suboptimal health, and yeah, this Zigzagoon just tackles and gets a critical hit and knocks Luvdisc out. So apparently it's a theme of this video to just not heal and then get knocked out by crits. I'm really hoping that that doesn't continue. In the next fight against this youngster, I polish off his team, and with that I can move on into Petalburg Forest and fight the Team Aqua Grunt here. Oh, it looks like I didn't heal for this fight. That's unfortunate. Counteracting this, though, is the fact that I get a critical hit on the first turn, doing almost half. Poochyena sets up Howl, raising its attack stat. My next tackle misses, unfortunately. Poochyena attacks, and it's not doing that much. I guess Luvdisc's defense is like alright for the early game. In the end, I managed to polish off this Poochyena, and so with that, I am breaking the trend of not healing and losing. Up next in the forest is Bugcatcher James. Look at this, my health is fully healed for this fight, but it turns out that my PP is not fully healed. And as a result, against the second one, I have to potentially spam out all of my uses of charm before I can take it out. And no, this does not work out, so yes, once again, I got a reset. Now you might wonder here, Scott, why aren't you just going back to the center to heal? Well, I really don't want to lose time if I don't have to. And usually I can get through these trainers without any issues. Apparently when starting this playthrough, I hadn't quite correctly adjusted my expectations for just how bad Luvdisc is. Right now I'm going to train in the wild, level up to level 12, this gives me Water Gun, and now I shouldn't have any issues. After all, Ninkata is part ground type, so I take them out in one hit, and with that I can move on to Rustboro City. Now one advantage that Luvdisc does have is the fact that the first gym leader is a rock type gym leader, so I should have no issues here. Roxanne leads with a Geodude, and it takes 4 times damage from Water Gun, so I should get the one hit. And I do. She sends out her second Geodude, Water Gun also takes it out, and so now all I have to deal with is Nose Pass, the Pokemon that has a leg that looks like a suction cup mouth. If you're new to the channel, now you'll probably never unsee that ever again. So it looks like I'm going to take this thing out in 3 turns. It only goes for Harden, and then Luvdisc gets a critical hit. Okay, so first gym leader was no problem. With the experience, Luvdisc levels up to level 16 and learns agility. Thank you so much. That's just the perfect move for it. In Rust Turf Tunnel, I have to save Pico. By the way, I really want to do a Wingull or Pelipper playthrough at some point. I think those two will be really fun. Someone suggested in the comments that when I do a Pelipper playthrough, I should have to use Protect on the first turn of every battle. And like, yeah, that would kind of be thematically fitting for it. After stopping by the Mart, by the way, I bought Repels there, I decide that maybe I'll fight Brendan. After all, this experience might be helpful later on in the game. First up, he has a Wingull, and Tackle and Water Gun are doing very little to it, so I take it out over 4 turns, sustaining about a quarter in the process. Next is, well, Trico, and as soon as it came out, I realized the mistake I had made. Yeah, this fight is going to be a loss, so yeah, let's just skip Brendan entirely. After passing by the trainers on the bridge, I catch myself some HM users. First one's a Wingull. I call it Aleandra after one of my Venomoth supporters here on YouTube. Next I catch a Meryl, which I named Stark after one of my long-term Patreon and YouTube member supporters. Thank you so much. After that, I pick up a Zigzagoon and I name it Baker after Zach Baker, one of my YouTube member supporters. So thank you so much for the support, I really appreciate it. I take a boat trip south, making sure to heal on the bed while I'm inside, and now I've made it to Dewford Town. Here, I pick up the Silk Scarf immediately, and then I deliver the letter to Steven. With that chore out of the way, I leave the cave with an escape rope, and now I'm ready to try Brawley. First up, he sends in Machop. Now I have 2 options here, either just attack it right away and try and knock it out with like say 2 hits, or use Charm to lower its attack stat. I decide to play offensively, use Water Gun, and it does like a quarter damage. Machop uses a very fitting move, gets a critical hit, and takes Luvdisc down under half health. Okay, this fight I don't think is going to be possible. I go for Water Gun, it takes Machop to orange health, but it doesn't even look like I'm going to get the KO next turn, and no I don't. Brawley toys with me by using Seismic Toss and then a Super Potion, and so yeah, this one is a defeat. Now, something I didn't know when I started my Emerald series is the fact that you can actually skip Brawley until after you've defeated Flannery, so let's do that. I think that that's going to be the best option for Luvdisc, at least for now. On Slateport Beach, I want to bring your attention to a couple hidden items. So on the right-hand side, somewhere over here, there is an ether. It's below this green umbrella. I think I'm going to grab this for every playthrough because it will be useful for training. And then on the left side of the beach, somewhere over here, actually directly under a green umbrella this time, is a heart scale, which will be really good for flexibility later on in case I want to relearn one of my level up moves. After that, I take care of the trainers on the beach and in the soda shop just so that I can get Luvdisc to the highest possible level, and then I head into the museum to take on Team Aqua. These fights are a bit annoying because they have Carvana. I'm using Water Gun against it so that I don't activate Rough Skin. Either way, I end up taking them out, and after that, I decide to head back to Brawley. Now the reason I did things this way is because I'm a much higher level, I think I can beat him, after all Water Gun is doing much more now, and I really want to do as much training as possible because Watson is coming up next, and the experience from defeating Brawley alone is definitely going to be useful against Watson. I really can't see Luvdisc defeating him under, like, let's say level 35, and I do think that backtracking here was a good choice because I end up defeating Brawley right away. I head into the trick house next to earn myself a rare candy. By the way, there's this mandatory trainer who has a Skitty, a Shroomish, and a Meryl. Honestly, Luvdisc does not match up particularly well against this team. At this point in the run, my Luvdisc has learned Takedown through level up. Why does Luvdisc learn this move through level up? That just like really doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, normally I hate this move because it deals recoil damage, but when your options are Water Gun, Tackle, or Takedown, I guess this is the best choice against Pokemon like Shroomish. Unfortunately, I get paralyzed against it, which is a bit annoying for the Meryl that follows. Luckily, Takedown does more than half, and from here I really wanted to use Tackle so that I could avoid the recoil damage, but it's really not doing very much, and Meryl is setting up Defense Curl, so I switched into using Water Gun for the more consistent damage, but yeah, Leech Seed is sapping my health, and Luvdisc goes down. So that is a loss against a random trainer in the Trick House. Feels really great. At least I'm able to defeat her on my next attempt, and with that I earn myself the rare candy. However, things are probably going to get much harder now because up next is Brendan. First is Slugma. This thing should be no issue. I one-hit it with Water Gun. Next he sends in Grovyle. I'm very lucky here that its best grass type move is Absorb. I go for Takedown. It does what looks like just under half. Grovyle uses Absorb, so I'm definitely not going to two-hit. I take it to red on the next turn. It hits another Absorb, taking me under half. And then I finish it off. Okay, so that wasn't as bad as I expected. Because I don't want to take damage from the Wingull and damage myself with recoil, I use Tackle. It does about a third. As a result, Wingull gets to hit me twice with Wing Attack, but Luvdisc survives on red health and finishes the battle off. I make quick work of Wally's team. Ralts doesn't seem to have an image that the software can access, so yeah, it's just a blank void up in the top right. Okay, we can just fix that in post. Not quite right. Okay, that's better. Good. In the area surrounding Mauville City, there are a lot of additional trainers, and normally I like to fight all of them before I take Watson on. I think in Pokemon Emerald, I usually hype Tate and Liza up a lot as being the most challenging gym leader, but I actually think that Watson overall might be stronger than them. At least he gives them a run for their money. And with Luvdisc, I am going to need an answer for his Pokemon. So leveling up to gain some additional moves might be nice, but I'm not going to learn anything that's particularly good. Like Luvdisc does get access to Attract when I level up to level 28, and this is useful against 3 of Watson's Pokemon, but not against the Magneton because it's genderless. Also, it's worth noting that I made my Luvdisc a female Pokemon specifically because I don't want a trainer like Flannery using Attract against me. Also, having a female Pokemon means that I will later on be able to use Attract against, say, Steven if that fight ends up being challenging, and it probably will be. After defeating the trainers on the routes, I defeat the Windstraits. They're actually not that bad for Luvdisc. So all that training got my Luvdisc to level 35. Let's see if it's enough. First is Voltorb. Now Electric doesn't resist water type moves, so I go for Water Gun. It does half, but then Voltorb self-destructs and does a third to Luvdisc. Not a great start. Okay, next is the Electric. I don't want to get hit by Shockwave here, so I go for Takedown. It doesn't knock it out. I take recoil damage and static activates, which consumes my Cherry Berry. So this is like perhaps the worst start to the fight that I could have asked for. I use Takedown on the next turn to take it back to red health, but this activates static again, and yeah, the Electric finishes me off with Shockwave. I don't think it is going to be possible in any world for me to defeat Watson at this level, so I level up to level 36 to get access to Sweet Kiss. Here I had to decide which move to forget, and while I would really like to have the Charm, Attract, and Sweet Kiss moveset for thematic relevance, that is, I don't think it's going to be good today, so I'm going to give up Attract just because it doesn't work against the Magneton. At least Sweet Kiss gives me an option against it. In the next fight against Watson, I try Takedown against the Voltorb, and even this doesn't knock it out, so I tank a Spark and then knock it out on the next turn. Luckily against the Electric, it just goes for Howl, and I take it out over 2 turns. So now I've made it to the Magneton. Let's see how this goes. I use Sweet Kiss to confuse it. It hits itself, which is perfect. And then Water Gun actually does a surprising amount of damage. So if it hits itself 2 more times, I will knock it out. And that ends up happening. Okay, so I have made it to Watson's Ace Manectric. This is looking really good. I figured here that Takedown would do more damage than Water Gun, so I went for it. It does about a third. Manectric strikes back with Thunder Wave, paralyzing me, but my Cherry Berry heals it. So that's a damageless turn from Watson, which is pretty good. I decided to go for Water Gun next, hoping that it would do actually a little bit less damage, preventing Watson from using a Super Potion. Manectric goes for Thunder Wave, paralyzing me again, and then eats a Citrus Berry, healing into green. And then it goes for Shockwave, and gets a critical hit, knocking Luvdisc out. Here's the thing, that last fight isn't representative of how this fight should go, because if the Magneton actually just attacks and uses Shockwave, Luvdisc is gonna go down. I decided to go Train after getting one more reset. After all, if I spend the time required to level up all the way to level 40, so let's fast track this, I can learn Flail. Obviously against Watson, Charm isn't useful, so let's replace that move. Okay, time to take on Watson again. Now I'm over a damage rounding threshold here at level 40, so I tried Takedown against the Voltorb to see if it would one-hit, but it still isn't. Luckily against the Electrike that's next, Water Gun is able to one-hit, so that is a big improvement. I can fuse Magneton with Sweet Kiss, it hits itself, and I actually knock it out without taking any damage. So that's perfect. Time for the Manectric. I go for Water Gun, dealing almost half. My Cherry Berry heals the paralysis. And then in a miracle, after surviving a second Shockwave, Luvdisc hangs on with 3 health and I had selected Flail. However, paralysis prevents me from moving, so yeah, that's the end of this fight. So I made it back to Manectric again, and I just want to mention here that I'm really frustrated that I can't beat Watson now. After all, Flannery is next. If I can just get to her, I think I'll be able to win, and then Norman's next, and right after I defeat him, I'm going to get access to Surf. So I think that Luvdisc is going to start having a better time just as soon as I defeat Watson, but that doesn't happen in this fight. I don't think it's going to work at this level, so let's head back to Route 117 and train against wild Pokemon. There are basically no trainer Pokemon left, and yeah, then this happened.
Oh! What? Oh my gosh! I'm not gonna get it. There's no way.
The reason I say that is that in most of these playthroughs, I don't buy a lot of Pokeballs because I don't need a lot of HM users. And so I only have 2 Pokeballs to catch this shiny Poochyena. By the way, this is the second shiny Pokemon that I have ever seen while doing these playthroughs. The first one was actually during my only Nuzlocke on the channel, and I saw a shiny Rattata before I had Pokeballs in Pokemon Crystal, which was extremely painful. So is this going to be the second shiny that gets away from me? Well, probably. I'm going to have to catch it with one of 2 Pokeballs. I go for Sweet Kiss, confusing it, hoping that it's going to do a little bit of damage to itself. I was really hoping that I wouldn't attack it. After all, my Luvdisc is level 40 and the Poochyena is level 13. Making matters worse is the fact that the Poochyena can raise its attack stat with Howl, meaning it will deal more damage to itself in confusion, and it's also lowering my accuracy with Sand Attack so that my Sweet Kiss is less and less likely to confuse it. It hits itself, does a third in damage, and at this point I was like, okay, I should probably throw a Pokeball, so I do, and it catches it. So in the history of the channel, this is the first shiny that I have ever caught, and as a tribute to the patron that I named my first Poochyena on the channel after, I am going to also name this Poochyena Kyle. By the way, just so everyone knows, I will be doing a playthrough of Pokemon Emerald with this specific Poochyena at a later date. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so with all of that excitement out of the way, let's head back to Watson, because while I was training, I had the idea of using Flail when my Luvdisc is at low health. Maybe at just under half health, I'll be able to one-hit the Voltorb. No, I won't. Then it uses Self-Destruct, but Luvdisc hangs on with 9 hit points. Okay, so maybe my outrageously high speed in comparison with the rest of my stats. Yes, my attack stack actually has a 10% badge boost calculated into it right now, and it is still only 46. A whole 60 points lower than my speed. So at least I'm going to move first against these electric types. I go for Flail, it knocks the Electrike out in a single hit, so that's good. Now, instead of using this normal type move against the Magneton, I go for Sweet Kiss first. It hits itself, I use Water Gun, it does a lot of damage, and then after Magneton hits itself one more time, I knock it out. Okay, so that's perfect luck. I'm still in red health for the Manectric, so how much will Flail do? And the answer is just over half? Okay, that's not good. I tried the fight again with this strategy, but this time static messes me up and that leads to a loss. In the next fight I make it back to the Manectric, but I have slightly more health. As a result, Flail does even less, and the Manectric finishes me off with Shockwave. So this strategy isn't going to work. Let's level up to level 43 over the next damage rounding threshold and see if this is enough. Now Water Gun is able to knock out the Voltorb and the Electrike in single hits, meaning there's no chance of me activating Static against them. Now let's see how much Water Gun is doing to the Magneton right away. It's actually doing more than half, and that means the Magneton is going to use Thunder Wave, my Cherry Berry will heal it, and then I can knock Magneton out. So this means in every fight at level 43, I am going to move on to the Manectric with full health. I use Water Gun twice against it, taking it down to red health. It heals with the Citrus Berry, and unfortunately, because Paralysis prevents Luvdisc from moving, it gets the knockout. However, this fight is much more consistent now because I can always make it back here. In the next fight, I actually roll better damage with Water Gun. It does half. The Manectric heals with a Citrus Berry, paralyzes me for good, but this time Luvdisc has enough health to hang on long enough to get the final hit in, and with that, I have finished off Watson at long last. So of course, in order to head north, I need to teach one of my Pokemon Rock Smash. Who better than Kyle, the shiny Poochyena? Okay, smash away, Kyle. By the way, it's really satisfying every time you use an HM move to see a shiny Pokemon. I love that they actually show the sprite of the Pokemon using the move, not just a generic Poochyena sprite. Well done, Game Freak. In Fall Arbor Town, I want to draw your attention to the fact that there is a nugget here in this little crater. Nice. After that, I head towards Meteor Falls. There is a Rock Smash rock here, which Kyle makes quick work of, and behind it is a protein, so this is kind of useful for some Pokemon. Because of the EV system, I'm not sure that I want to feed it to Luvdisc right away, but it might be useful to sell for money later on. Next, I get to take a gondola trip, and I have a chance to see a hiker here. No, I have still not seen him yet, unfortunately. After that, it is time to face Maxie. While the Mightyena does get annoying, lowering my attack stat, and it also uses Sand Attack, Luvdisc is just refusing to lose this fight. It hits all of its water guns and polishes off his team with no problems. Okay, so I've almost made it to Flannery, and before that, I am going to remove Takedown in favor of Secret Power. Now, when I'm on normal terrain, which is for all gym battles and most trainer battles, this move will be a 70 base power normal move that has a 30% chance to paralyze. I just think this is much better than a 90 base power move like Takedown that has recoil and a chance to miss. Alright, so now let's do it. This should be one of the easiest gyms yet. Flannery leads with Nummel. It has a double weakness to water type moves, so it takes 4 times damage, and I knock it out with a single water gun. Next is Slugma. Water gun also one hits it. And now it's time for the Camerupt, which also takes 4 times damage from water guns, so it goes down in one hit as well. However, the Torkoal that's last has decent special defense, and it also isn't a rock type, so it only takes 2 times damage from water gun. It survives, goes for Body Slam, which does so little damage, and then over the course of 2 more turns, I knock it out. Alright, so that was easy as expected. I make my way back through the middle of the map as quickly as possible, because I cannot wait to get Surf, and there is only one more major trainer in my way before I finally get it. So let's take on Norman. Up first is Spinda. Unfortunately, Water Gun does half to it. I can't believe I'm using Water Gun with a level 48 Water-type Pokemon. Like, what is Luvdisc? They really did only invent this thing so that you could get Heart Scales. I managed to take out Norman's lead on the next turn. I am confused, but luckily I don't hit myself on the first turn against the Vigoroth. I tank a Slash pretty well, and then snap out of confusion, knocking his second Pokemon out on the next turn. Okay, it's time for the Linoon. Now this thing does have Belly Drum, so I need to be a bit careful. My first Water Gun does less than half. It Belly Drums, cutting its HP down to red, and then Norman uses a Hyper Potion. That is not good, okay. I do get 2 Water Guns in a row, but then Linoon goes for Headbutt, and oh, Luvdisc actually survives. I can't believe that. However, Norman has another Hyper Potion, so he heals it again. I debated here going for Flail, because maybe it would do more damage, but like my attack stat is not very good. In the end, I chose Water Gun, and the Linoon finishes me off. So what I should probably do against it first turn is use Sweet Kiss. After all, if it maximizes its attack stat, it will do more damage to itself. In this case, it just chooses Slash, but then I knock it out, so I have half health left over for the slacking. Now it knows Counter, so to play around this, I really don't want to use a physical move. I decide to go for Sweet Kiss on the first turn. It hits itself, which is really great. I go for Water Gun on the turn that it's loafing around, and after this, I should just be able to continue using Water Gun and take it out. By the way, you might be wondering if Facade has its power doubled if it's confused. That's only if it's burned burned, paralyzed, or poisoned. Unfortunately for me though, I mistimed my confusion and Slacking snaps out right after I use Sweet Kiss again, and then it finishes me off with Facade. Okay, I deserved that loss. In the next battle, I miss my Sweet Kiss against Linoon, and this is really bad because it sets a belly drum and then eventually it takes me out. I make it back to Slacking next, and here I get yawned, which puts Luvdisc to sleep. Very annoying. The Slacking actually gets a second yawn in, and because of this, it ends up taking me out. So I went back and fought a trainer earlier in the gym. By the way, it is really strange that this Delcatty only knows Feint Attack and Shockwave. Anyways, the reason I'm doing this fight is so that I can lower Luvdisc's health, and then potentially use Flail against Norman. I go for Flail first turn against the Spinda, and it does half. Okay, that's not so good. At least I survived the Facade, which puts me on very low red health, so this should be what I need. But Flail fails to knock out the Vigoroth, and as a result, Luvdisc goes down. So that is definitely not the answer. I tried again with full health, but this time the Linoon just gets a critical hit and knocks Luvdisc out. Alright, this is going really badly, so I actually backtracked all the way to Fall Arbor Town. This took forever, and I'm going here off the suggestion of someone in my Twitch chat who mentioned that I should probably go back and grab a Tract again. I teach it in the place of Secret Power. After all, this move isn't very useful against Facade users. So here's how I'm going to use this highly thematic move. First of all, it is better as a first turn move against the Linoon because it has 100% accuracy and it's going to cause this thing to miss 50% of its attacks. Also, Attract doesn't wear off like Confusion, so in that way it is also better. Norman gets pretty annoying here healing the Linoon, but I eventually take it down and move on to the Slacking. Okay, time for first turn Attract. Unfortunately though, the Slacking just sees that it can get the one hit with Facade, it goes for it, and Luvdisc goes down. This time against the Linoon, I'm not sure what I was thinking about. I went for Sweet Kiss instead of Attract, but either way I'm able to take it out. Next is Slacking. This time it doesn't attack first turn because of Attract, and then on the second turn I successfully land a Sweet Kiss, which is perfect. Now this thing is not going to be very effective. It's loafing, it's confused, and it also is immobilized by love, so that's great. The problem here is that Norman is just determined to drag this fight out as long as is possible. The Slacking eats a Citrus Berry, healing itself, and then Norman uses not one, but 2 Hyper Potions, healing it to full health. However, Attract is actually really good, and because of that, Luvdisc is actually able to take the victory. So finally, after nearly 2 hours, I have earned myself another water move. I teach Surf in the place of Water Gun, and the new moves don't end there because I can head to the abandoned ship and pick up the TM for Ice Beam. I teach this to Luvdisc in the place of Flail. I really hope that that move is not going to be useful anymore. And after that, I backtrack through Slateport City, where I pick up the TM for Hidden Power. By the way, I haven't mentioned which type I'm going with in this run, and in this case I'm going to be going for Hidden Power Electric. If you've watched my Generation 2 content, you'll know that Hidden Power is banned in first attempts, at least the modern ones that I'm doing now. For Pokemon Emerald, I am not implementing this rule just because this game is significantly harder than Generation 2 and also significantly longer. Like, are we going to be able to beat the game with Luvdisc under 4 hours? I'm not sure. So in this section of the game, Luvdisc has got a major upgrade to its moveset, and the upgrades are not ending there, because after I defeat the Aqua Admin, Shelly, in the Weather Institute, you can see against Brendan that now I have the held item, the Mystic Water. That's because the cast form gift you get given is holding it. This boosts the power of water type moves by 10%, which is perfect. So Surf, after the same type attack bonus and after this 10% boost, now has a neutral effective power of 157. Ice Beam finishes off the Grovyle in a single hit, and last is Pelipper. Of course, though, it wastes my time with Protect. Yes, I guess I could have just used Attract here, but I'm gonna one-hit it on the next turn anyways. With that, I have made it to Fort Tree City, the place with the coolest aesthetic in this entire generation. And now, with a Kecleon out of my way, it is time to face Winona. I don't expect this to be a particularly challenging fight. After all, I have moves that are good against all of her Pokemon. Ice Beam knocks out the Swablu on the first turn. Next is Tropius, and it takes 4 times damage from ice moves, so it's not a problem. Next is Pelipper. It doesn't use Protect, and I just one-shot it with Hidden Power Electric. So next is Skarmory. I go for Ice Beam. It does more than half. Its responding Aerial Ace does so little to me, and I finish it on the next turn. Okay, time for her Ace Altaria, and of course, Ice Beam gets the job done. So Luvdisc has earned itself the 6th badge. Now I should mention here, in this mandatory battle against 2 Aqua Grunts on Mount Chimney, that I had sort of a love story brewing in my mind. The pairing of the cute Luvdisc, Valentine, and of course course, the shiny Poochyena Kyle. I figured I had to use this thing at least once in a battle in this video, plus this fight is not hard, even for Luvdisc. With that battle out of the way, I have to take care of the hideouts. At the end of the first one is Maxi. I shouldn't really have a problem here. Surf 1 hits the Mightyena, Ice Beam 1 hits the Crobat with a critical hit, and obviously Surf 1 hits his Camerupt. Yeah, no problems. Next, of course, is the Aqua Hideout. No, it's not. I always forget to go to Slateport City and finish off this little plot element. Does that happen to anyone else? I really hope it does. As a kid, it happened to me over and over again. Like every time I replayed Ruby, this happened to me. With that taken care of, I head into the Aqua Hideout. Matt's in here. He is definitely the coolest admin, but unfortunately today, Luvdisc is just far too powerful. Alright, things are starting to feel a lot smoother. However, in the Moss Deep City gym, Tate and Liza are waiting for me. Okay, so I have to explain at least two things for this battle. First of all, I am not using my standard Magikarp with the nickname Bruno. Instead, I will be using Kyle for this fight. I feel like that is mandatory with the love story that we have brewing. Also, just to make sure that this fight isn't unfair for Luvdisc, I can just have Kyle use Howl. Okay, so the next thing that I should explain is Surf's interaction in double battles. Whenever a move hits both of the opponent's Pokemon, its damage is actually halved to 50%. This means that the move deals the same amount of damage, it's just spread between the two opposing Pokemon. Now, not all moves are like this. For instance, a move that hits all Pokemon on the field, which is different from hitting both of the opposing Pokemon, that kind of move will deal 100% damage to both Pokemon. So a move like Earthquake, for instance. Which is unfortunate for Romeo and Juliet, because that means Claydol's Earthquake hits Luvdisc doing about a quarter, and it knocks Kyle out, so rip Kyle. However, what I'm hoping for here is the fact that Surf is super effective against 3 of their Pokemon is going to be enough to just get the job done. However, Xatu uses Sunny Day, which cuts Surf's damage. By the way, I know that my overlay isn't updating the powers correctly in this double battle. So because Surf will do less damage, I use Ice Beam to knock the Xatu out, and then they send in their last Pokemon, Lunatone. Solrock hits Psychic, taking Luvdisc to half, and it also lowers my special defense, which is really bad. I try for Surf, it does less than half, and then the Solrock finishes the battle with Solar Beam. Alright, I think it's time to do some training. I'm going to level up to level 60. Also, there are a lot of trainers to defeat on the water. After this, I head into Shoal Cave. This is for 2 items. One, there is a rare candy, and there is also the TM for Hail. I actually can't believe that this move could potentially be useful. But first, before I try it out, let's just try Tate and Liza one more time over the next damage rounding threshold. Unfortunately, this fight doesn't go very well, and they finish me off without me even making it to the Lunatone. Okay, so let's teach Luvdisc Hail, and in this case, I think it makes sense to unlearn Attract. However, there is another way to make this fight a little bit easier, and that's teaching Rest in the place of Hidden Power. After all, I can just rebuy this TM later on when I need it. Armed with the Chesto Berry, I head back into the fight. So I really want to knock the Xatu out right away so it doesn't set up with Calm Mind. Ice Beam gets the 1-hit, which is perfect. This levels Kyle up. Good job, Kyle. However, Earthquake knocks him out next. Luvdisc is very sad here. It's ready to avenge its fallen lover. I go for Surf next, doing more than half to both of their Pokemon, and then Solrock sets up Sunny Day. Okay, so now I can use Luvdisc's speed to set up Hail, removing the sun, which means Solrock is already going to be locked into Solar Beam, and so it's going to charge on this turn. Which is perfect for me, because then I can use Surf on the next turn and knock out both of their Pokemon. All that's left is Lunatone, however, Luvdisc is much faster than it, meaning that I can use Resto Chesto strats to heal all the way to full health, and then I can knock it out with Surf. So with that, Luvdisc has defeated Tate and Liza, and their badge gives it a boost to both its special attack and its special defense. Next, Luvdisc has a brief affair with Steven's Metang. This double battle is so easy for these 2 Pokemon to get through together. Then there is a third love story. This one's a bit tumultuous between Groudon and Kyogre. It actually takes a third member for their relationship to be complete, much like me and my fiance with our foster cat, who is hopefully soon going to be officially adopted. With that out of the way, it is time to take on Juan. Obviously in this case, Hail is useless, so Hidden Power makes more sense once again. In the mirror match, Luvdisc versus Luvdisc, mine is far superior, it's a much higher level. Next is Whiscash, of course Surf makes sense here. I knock it out with 2 hits. Celio comes in next. Hidden Power forces a Hyper Potion, and then I knock it out over 2 more turns. Crawdaunt goes down to a single hit, and that leads to Juan's ace, Kingdra. Now I went for Hidden Power Electric here. It actually gets a critical hit and does more than half, but obviously Ice Beam is the better move. I am just forgetting it and consistently using Hidden Power, and then the Kingdra freezes me, which is really annoying. It uses rest, healing entirely. However, in Generation 3, of course you can thaw, and Luvdisc does, which allows me to continue the fight. Now, because I've run out of hidden power, I'm having to use Ice Beam, so finally I'm using the better move. But still, I might not be able to win this just because of how good Double Team is. The fact that I also have rest means this could end up being a stall fest that comes down to us both using struggle against each other. However, it doesn't go that far because Kingdra goes to sleep, and I manage to hit 3 Ice Beams in a row and knock it out. So there's one battle left before the League. Of course, it is Wally. I one-shot the Altaria, one-shot the Magneton, one-shot the Roselia. Don't one-shot the Delcatty, it actually survives, but I knock it out on the next turn anyways. And then I 2-hit the Gardevoir as well. So with that, I have made it to the League. Let's do this. Of course, up first is Sydney. It's really nice that today I don't need to worry about Intimidate. I just one-shot the Mightyena with a single Surf. Next is Cacturne, Ice Beam gets the job done, but unfortunately the following Shift Tree does survive. However, even despite it using a double team, I'm able to hit enough times and knock it out. Next is Crawdaunt. Of course, Hidden Power Electric is very useful here. It doesn't quite get the KO, but this thing loves to set up on the first turn, so after a healing item, I am able to knock it out on the next hit. Last is Sydney's Ace, Absol, and this thing also loves to set up Swords Dance, so I'm able to take it down with 2 uses of Surf. Alright, Luvdisc, that first League member was not so bad. Okay, how about Phoebe? On the first turn, you'll notice here that I go for Rest. That's so that pressure doesn't drop my PP on whatever attacking move I would use. Dusclops fails a Protect on the next turn, I use Surf, taking it down under half health, then it uses a Protect, and I knock it out on the next turn. Next, Phoebe sends in her second Bayonet, which actually has Thunderbolt. My Surf doesn't get the one hit, so I take a 3rd damage, and it also gets the lucky 10% chance to paralyze me, which is really unfortunate. Because of this status condition and my cut speed, when the first Bayonet comes out, it finishes me off with Shadow Ball. I figured that this loss was pretty much just down to that paralysis and that I would get further in the fight without it. However, the next battle, Confusion really messes me up, and as a result, once again, Luvdisc goes down. Now, something you might not be aware of is the fact that the first Dusclops has Curse, and as a solo Pokemon, you need to be very careful against this move, especially because Phoebe has enough Pokemon that you will lose if the Dusclops uses it. That happens in the next fight, so I am doomed to a loss in this battle. I decided to give Luvdisc 2 rare candies so that it would be over the next damage rounding threshold. The improved damage ranges will hopefully help, especially against the final Dusclops. However, in this case I do get confused, which is a bit annoying. Luckily, when she sends out the Thunderbolt Bayonet, I'm able to take it to red health, force a full restore, and then knock it out over the 2 next hits. Her next Bayonet uses Grudge, so I use Ice Beam so that I don't waste all the PP on Surf. Then Sableye comes out next, and it doesn't have amazing attacking moves, so I just go for Rest, heal up here, take things a bit slower, and then I knock it out. Okay, time for the last Dusclops. I go for Surf, which does less than half. Dusclops strikes back with Shadow Ball, taking me down to 44 hit points. Alright, I think I'll survive one more. I go for Surf, taking Dusclops to red health. It goes for Shadow Ball. Luvdisc just barely survives on 6 hit points. And then Dusclops heals with a Citrus Berry, and that takes it out of range for Phoebe to use a full restore, so I finish it off on the next turn with Surf. Up next, of course, is Glacia. I don't expect this one to be too bad just because I have hidden power. The first Celio just sets up Hail and I knock it out with 2 turns. She sends in Glalie next. It doesn't resist water type moves, so I can take it out with 2 uses of Surf. Celio 2 goes down in 2 hits. That leads to her next Glalie. Yes, this one does no explosion, but in this case I outspeed on the second turn and knock it out, no problem. Last is Walrein. I go for Hidden Power Electric, it gets a critical hit and takes it all the way down to red health. That was really good. The Walrein doesn't really have anything that's particularly good against me. In this case, it chooses Surf, which does very little damage. I take some damage from Hail, Walrein heals with a Citrus Berry, and then I knock it out. Okay, so that is 2 League members in a row where I won very closely, and they used a Citrus Berry at the end of the battle. I think that if the AI hadn't had the Citrus Berry and had used a full restore instead, I might have had some problems. Either way, I'm moving on to Drake, and he should be no issue. I'm pretty sure that I can spam Ice Beam and one-shot all of his team members, so let's see. The Shell Gun goes down after using Protect, then Altaria's next, obviously a one-hit. Okay, Kingdra is not going to be a one-hit. I guess I'm going to have to 3-hit this thing, but mirroring my mistake from earlier, I use Hidden Power Electric. It does less damage. Yeah, whoops. Anyways, I go for Ice Beam on my 3rd turn and get a lucky critical hit, so I knock it out in 3 turns anyways. That levels me up to level 70 over the next damage rounding threshold. I really wish I had one-shot Flygon with Ice Beam, but instead I miss. By the way, that's because Kingdra used Smoke Screen on me. I hit on the next turn and take it out, so all that's left is Salamence. I go for Ice Beam, it hits. And that's that, I've cleared the league. So all that remains for me in this section of the game is Wallace. His first Pokemon is the massive Whale Lord. I go for Hidden Power Electric, it does half, and then the whale sets up Rain, which is actually good for me. By the way, in this video my overlay isn't calculating in the effective power boost from having Rain on my side. Anyways, next he sends in Ludicolo. Ice Beam makes the most sense here. With a critical hit I do half, and that means without a crit I'm doing about a quarter, and the Ludicolo just keeps setting up double team, plus then Wallace uses a full restore, and when it finally hits with Giga Drain, it does so much damage, like almost half. Then to make matters worse, the Ludicolo uses Leech Seed, and yeah, all of this spirals out of control. It hits with Giga Drain and Luvdisc faints. So I'm putting off using the remaining rare candies, just because I really want to save them for after Wallace, so that I can have the maximum possible level against Steven. If I have to train more in the late game, I don't want to have to do that after I use all of the candies. But in this case, I'm just not doing enough damage to the Ludicolo and it knocks me out again, so let's level up. I use my 10 remaining rare candies to take Luvdisc all the way up to level 80, so that's over 4 more damage rounding thresholds. Let's try this again. Now Ice Beam is doing a third to the Ludicolo, which is better, but still not particularly inspiring, especially after it sets up Leech Seed, because then I lose health every turn and it heals a bit. Also, it's using Giga Drain, so yeah, I have to use Rest to heal, and that is not the winning strategy here. I figured that at some point I would get a freeze, and then I would be able to get past this Pokemon, and I actually get it in the very next battle, which is great, so I move on to Tentacruel for the first time. However, here my health is low, and I know that this Pokemon specifically has really nice special defense, so I use Rest to heal and consume my Chesto Berry in the process. I take about a third from Sludge Bomb and Leech Seed, and then unfortunately after I wake up and start attacking, the Tentacruel does poison me, which forces another rest. However, this time I don't have a Chesto Berry, and the tentacle monster is dealing far too much damage, so Luvdisc goes down. Okay, so this is starting to get annoying. A couple fights later I freeze the Ludicolo again and make it past it. This time I am able to take out the Tentacruel though, so I make it to the Milotic. Its moveset is Recover, Surf, Ice Beam, and Toxic, and I figured that with Rest and my typing, I should be able to defeat it. However, the problem here is that Luvdisc just isn't doing enough damage to it. Unless I get a freeze with Ice Beam, I am not going to be able to outlast its uses of Recover. As a result, after a long stalling fest, the Milotic takes me out, and I came back into the fight then at level 70, just so that I could black out and start the entire league over again. I head to Victory Road and do some training so that Luvdisc goes up to level 75, and then after re-clearing the entire league and using 11 rare candies, Luvdisc is at level 88. Please let 8 more levels be enough to defeat him. Wailord is still pretty consistent, but will Ludicolo be more consistent? Well, it looks like I'm doing just under half, which is quite frustrating. So as a result, I take 1 hit from Giga Drain before I knock it out. However, that was much better than last time. Okay, time for Tentacruel. Because I'm a higher level, I decided to just go pure offensive on this thing, and I do half to it on the first turn. Next, it poisons me, so I'm going to have to use Rest to cure that very soon, but I knock it out anyways. Okay, time for the Milotic. Now I know this thing can't do much damage to me, so I'll heal here with Rest. When I wake up, I start using Hidden Power, and it looks like it's not quite doing half, which is a little bit frustrating, and so I'm not out damaging its Recover, and as a result, I take another loss. However, it looks like the extra levels have made getting to the Milotic at least consistent. Okay, so how am I going to beat Wallace's ace? Well, it's actually going to be quite easy. If I use Rest, I can actually stall this thing out. Plus, when I have enough health, I do want to strike back just in case I say get a critical hit, or if I'm using Ice Beam, I might occasionally freeze. After almost depleting Hidden Power, I go for Ice Beam and eventually get the lucky freeze, and that's all I need to polish it off. There's only 2 Pokemon left. I can obviously take the Whiscash out with only 2 hits, and then there's only Gyarados left. Of course, I've saved 1 use of Hidden Power Electric just for it, and I get the 1 hit. So Luvdisc did it. It beat the champion with a time of 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 45 seconds with 44 resets, and it had to be level 88. This took 11 hours and 38 minutes of game time. So before we jump into the fight with Steven, I just want to go over Delibird's results, which are basically the worst results that I've got in Pokemon Emerald so far. By the way, Butterfree is at the bottom of this list just because it was the first Pokemon Emerald playthrough that I completed for the channel. Delibird defeated the game with a time of 4 hours and 44 minutes with 117 resets, and it needed level 100. I am really hoping that Luvdisc is not going to be this category of Pokemon. Maybe, just maybe, it can defeat Steven Stone under 4 hours. Up first is Skarmory. Here Surf is the better choice, and I think I might be able to 2-hit. However, maybe go for Ice Beam first turn in case I freeze, and oh, in this case I actually do, which is really nice. And then my next Surf gets a critical hit, knocking it out for free. Okay, that is a really good start. Next is Aggron. I use Surf and I knock it out in one hit. That's great. Okay, time for Cradily. I go for Ice Beam. It does about half, but this freaky fossil uses Giga Drain and heals a bit. However, then I get another critical hit, so this one goes down too. Alright, time for the Claydol. Surf does a lot. It sets up Light Screen, and then Steven heals it, so I'm not able to take it out before he uses another full restore, which is really annoying. And then Claydol strikes back with Earthquake, knocking Luvdisc out. I figured that one way to get by this thing is just to stall it out with Rest, because it isn't doing enough damage every turn with Earthquake. Earthquake only has 10 PP, and Ancient Power only has 5, so soon enough it just won't be doing damage and I'll be able to take it down. By doing this, I knock it out and move on to Steven's Ace with full health. I go for Surf, it does about a third. Metagross strikes back with Earthquake, doing a little bit more than a third to me. My next Surf takes it to yellow health, but it eats a Citrus Berry. However, it didn't heal enough, so I take it out on the next turn. All that's left is the Armaldo. It's of course the Dark Steel type. Just because of its typing, of course. I wasn't sure if I was going to one-hit it with Surf, despite this move appearing to be super effective. So I went for Rest, which turned out to be a really bad choice because the Armaldo finished me off. So Luvdisc is part of the fast growth rate. I think as a result, I should go and do some training. Maybe at level 90 or 93, this fight is overall just going to be a lot easier. Even at this level though, the fight has many obstacles for Luvdisc. Number one, the Cradily can actually confuse me and I can knock myself out, which is really annoying. Number two, the Claydol could critical hit me or set up with Ancient Power, which would make the fight really bad. Also, if I move on to the Metagross with a Light Screen in place, things are not great. The losses here stack up a little bit more, and then I decided that Attract really isn't doing much. What move might be more useful? Well, it's pretty simple. If I go back to the move reminder, I can teach Luvdisc Charm. The point of having this move on my moveset was to lower Claydol's attack to give me a little bit more survivability against it, and I also wanted to be able to better time Light Screen so that I could knock the Claydol out and then move on to the Metagross with at least better health. By the way, this move makes the Claydol feel way better. I have to spend much less time in the battle against it because I don't have to stall it out, and that means that it's less likely that it's going to get a critical hit. The issue, unfortunately, is that after I knock it out, the Metagross just gets a critical hit, so like, that's not good. So the issue there is the fact that I'm just not 2-hitting Steven's Ace, but there might be a way for me to do that. If I head to the abandoned ship, I can go down to the bottom floor, use Dive to get over to this little hidden area, and then I can obtain the TM for Rain Dance. So let's try this strategy against Steven instead of Charm. After hitting the Skarmory once with Surf, I can establish Rain Dance and then use it for extra damage on all of Steven's Pokemon, at least in the first part of the fight. I am able to make it back to the Claydol, but now without Charm, this fight is a lot less consistent. I end up losing a few times this way before I end up trying the moveset where I replace Ice Beam with Rain Dance so that I can keep Charm. This means my only attacking move is going to be Surf, and I was really worried about the Cradily, but it turns out if I establish Rain Dance against the first Skarmory, then I'll have enough damage to knock the Cradily out anyways and make it back to the Claydol. Then here, I can use Charm to lower its attack and finally make it to the Metagross. However, at the pivotal moment, my Rain wears off and Metagross eats a Citrus Berry, taking it just out of KO range and allowing it to knock Luvdisc out. But here's the solution. Against the Claydol, I can just spam Charm over and over and over again and time out exactly when Light Screen is going to end, then establish Rain Dance and use Surf to knock it out. Metagross is next. I have the Rain on my side, so Surf does way more than half. I survive an Earthquake, and even with the Citrus Berry, I'm able to take his Ace out on the next turn. Okay, so I've made it back to the Armaldo. This time, I'm just going to go for it. I use Surf, and it knocks it out. So Luvdisc clocks in with a time of 4 hours, 7 minutes, and 20 seconds, with 62 resets at level 91. This took 12 hours and 29 minutes of game time. So unfortunately, the heart-shaped fish did not clock in under 4 hours. But I am glad that it was not nearly as bad as Delibird. Still, it is one of 3 Pokemon that have completed the game in over 4 hours of time, so it is right near the bottom of the list right now. And I don't think anyone is going to be surprised with those results. After all, Luvdisc is not known for its battle prowess. I think the most surprising thing about this run was just how challenging Wallace was. I did not expect that, especially when I had Hidden Power Electric. Anyways, at least the fish was able to beat the game, and it did it without being level 100 and without double teams, so yeah, it really did outperform Delibird at least. Like, subscribe, ring the chime echo, and comment because I gotta read them all. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.